Hey, how's it going? Today we're going to be looking at conditional statements in Excel, and this is going to be your basic if-then statements. So for anybody that's had a computer programming class, you should be pretty familiar with the if-then type of logic. So with Excel, the way that you get to use that logic is you're going to type equals if parentheses, kind of like it looks up here, and then you're going to fill in some blanks after that. So let's go ahead and start by typing a 3 in this box. In some sense, we're designing a game that might be familiar to some of you called blackjack, and what we're designing here is from the dealer's perspective. So if the dealer gets a 3, and then maybe they get a 5, then we want to tell the dealer to hit, which means to draw another card. And we want to keep telling the dealer to hit until the total amount that they get is 18 or higher. And if it's 18 or higher, we want to tell them to stop hitting, so we're going to tell them to stand. So the first thing we can do is open up the sum command. So we're going to type equals SUM. Notice that as we're typing it, it's giving us a suggested list of commands. And sometimes I read through this list and I see things I haven't used before, like I wonder what some product does, or some if, or some if s. And if you ever think that might be useful, you just go ahead and do a Google search for that and see if that's something you could put to use in a more complicated situation. When you're ready to use the one that you want, you start with an open parentheses. And also notice down here how it tells you what it wants you to put in the sum. So you could click this one and then comma, the next one, and then comma, the next one, and so on. That's one way to do a sum. Another option is you can click and drag down and grab the cells that you want. So notice how it says D10 colon D14, and it highlights all those cells. I'm going to close parentheses and hit enter, and it produces a total of 8. So over here, I want to type an if-then statement that produces the word hit if the total is less than 18, and I want it to say stand if the total is at least 18. So we're starting with if, and then open parentheses. And then looking inside, it says first we want a logical test, then we want to tell what is it going to do if that test is true, and what is it going to do if the test is false. So the first thing we want to do is ask, is the total less than 18? So I'm going to click the total cell, less than 18, and then put a comma. So imagine this is asking Excel, is the total less than 18? Well, right now it is less than 18, so Excel is going to do whatever we type in next. And I want it to say the word hit, so you have to put that in quotation marks. HIT, and then comma. And then we want to say to Excel, alright, what do we want to do if, when it checks the total, is it less than 18? If the answer is no. And in this case, we want it to say stand. And so it returns the word hit. So we can type in a few numbers, like maybe a 10, and changes to stand. Now for some of you who know the game of blackjack, you'll know that there's a certain number you want to get close to, and then there's a certain number you don't want to go over, and that's 21. So we want to try to think of a way to modify this so that now it tells us if we've gone over. So for example, right now, if I type in 5 more and get a total of 23, I'd like this to say bust. Unfortunately, the if-then command only has 2 options. Either, what do you do if the test is true? What do you do if the test is false? So let's go ahead and take a look at a logic flowchart that we need to think through in order to make this work. Right now, we have an if-then statement that takes a number in and asks the question, is the number less than 18? And then it makes a decision. If it is less than 18, then it's going to return the word hit. And if it's bigger than 18, or if it's not less than 18 rather, that means it could be equal to 18, could be 19, could be 20, 21, 22, and so on. What I'd really like to do is ask another question. And so one possible question I could ask is, well, if the number is not less than 18, could you tell me if it's less than, say, 22? And now I have another yes or no question to answer. So if the number is less than 22, well, remember we only got here if we were not less than 18. So that means the number could be 18 or 19 or 20 or 21. Those are the numbers that are less than 22 that we would have gotten if we're not less than 18. We want it to say stand if it is less than 22 but greater than or equal to 18. And then if it's not less than 22, that means it has to be equal or greater than 22. That's when we want it to say bust. So what we have here is a logic flowchart that's going to help me to figure out a way to use the if-then statements and then place one if-then statement inside of another. So this is going to be an if-then statement that fits inside of the no box of the original if-then statement. So let's go ahead and try to make that happen in Excel. Instead of reporting the word stand, I want it to do another if-then statement. So I'm going to type if parentheses. What do I want to do? I want to check, is the total less than 22? And if it is, I want to say stand. Comma, if it's not, I want it to say bust. Close quotations, close parentheses. By the way, take a look up here. I'm going to delete that parentheses and I'm going to type it again, and when I do, I want you to pay attention right here. Do you notice how it makes it a little bit bold and it color codes? That's just a way of helping you to keep track of parentheses if you have multiple layers of parentheses. And it correctly says bust, and if I delete the 5, it correctly says stand, and if I delete the 10, it correctly says hit. So there you go. That's how you can tell Excel to do something called nesting, which is where you put one if-then statement inside of another. And by doing the nesting process, you can usually accomplish quite a number of complicated tasks.